Hello teachers. In this series of presentations, we'll be looking at language teaching methodology. This series will enable us to apply what we learned in the previous series of second language acquisition. For those of you who missed this series, I think you should watch that first. Since this is the first video in the series, the link for all the essential and optional resources is given in the description below. So let's get started. First of all, let's figure out what language teaching methodology is. It includes all the practices, procedures, activities, assignments, exercises, homeworks which we give in the classroom. We study the beliefs behind them. So for example, if we are conducting a role play in the class, so why we are doing it? In other words, it's the application of the knowledge which we get from how a second language is learned. As for the methods and approaches, there are plenty of them which were created throughout the history of second language teaching. For the purpose of this presentation, I've put a few on the screen. However, we are not going to discuss all of them because the concern of this training is not to discuss language teaching methodology at depth, but to learn something which we can take into the classroom for implementing. I should also mention that there isn't any one teaching method or approach which is perfect, but teachers all over the world use a blend of different approaches and methods to suit their context. So in this presentation, we are going to cover 3 teaching methods or approaches, which are communicative language teaching, task-based language teaching, and total physical response. At this stage, one important distinction which needs to be made is between an approach and a method. Different instructional designs, by this I mean the design of a set of instructions for the purpose of teaching and learning. So different instructional designs for teaching a second language draw on mainly 2 subjects. First is a theory of language, that is how a language works, and second a theory of learning, that is how a second language is learned. An instructional design in turn leads to further level of specification. For example, it suggests learning objectives, the syllabus, teacher and learner roles, and classroom activities. So coming back to our question, what is the difference between an approach and a method? When an instructional design is explicit at the level of theory of language and language learning, but can be applied in many different ways at the level of syllabus and classroom procedures, it is referred to as an approach. CLT, that is communicative language teaching, and TBLT, that is task-based language teaching, which we'll discuss in this series, are approaches because they can be applied differently. However, when an instructional design is quite specific about learning objectives, teacher and learner roles, and classroom activities, it is a method like TPR, total physical response, which we'll explore in this series. So fasten your belts, we are going to take up communicative language teaching in the next video. Bye.